And we are live. We're live here. Welcome on your TV sets in Texas and Louisiana. We are on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as joining from around the world on X, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the rest, YouTube, all these wonderful platforms that we stream on. That just came up on my feed there. X has paid out $50 million. $50 million to creators on the platform. That's a pretty big number, I would say. And coming from a guy who had his account banned, I had to go up to the highest levels in order to get my account back. They told me, no, that's it. You can't have it back. And then getting to a point where I'm getting paid to post. I had to update my Twitter there, or my X profile. I don't know if you noticed. Paid post, not financial advice. All right, just to cover myself, because I don't want to somewhere along the line to expose myself to different things. Well, we have a great show lined up today. I'll tell you that right off. We have some people joining. There's some stuff going on in New York that is sounds pretty interesting as well. The markets, the ETF is approved. The ETF approval has happened, which is pretty crazy. I think it's pretty crazy. We had the normal buy the rumor, sell the news event, which is that's normally, I guess, the way it happens, right? So Matt, I have actually another recording from Matt, but we're gonna pull that up in a minute, and that was one of the things that he talked about. But I think the markets, of course, they're going to continue upward on this. We do have a brief retrace. We have a retrace in oil, gold, oil, stocks, and crypto. But gold and silver are both up today, which I think is pretty indicative. We have some movement on the international level. Unfortunately, there were some hostages that remains that have been pulled up. Israel is, of course, saying they're going to keep going. I heard yesterday that as well, you have Putin. Putin is saying that he's okay with the ceasefire, so that could be pretty interesting. We'll see how that comes out. That would be an amazing development. As well, of course, as you know, we have consensus. Consensus is coming up next week. Let me just put that banner up here. I just under my X post, I put the link, because if you are trying to get the 15% discount, you can get the 15% discount. It is even for the Piranha Pass, which I think is exclusive to us, but you have to follow the link. Just entering in Bruce is a little rough. So without we have short times here, so there's some stuff that's going on in New York, and I want to address it here real quick. There's one thing that has I have noticed over the years here. I've considered running for congressional office a number of times. And one of the things that I have noticed is that it seems sometimes it seems a little funny, and there will be seats that are empty and this and that and the other. And I've always kind of wondered about that. So I'm going to bring on here, this is Shannon Stevens. She is running for New York's second congressional district in New York, second congressional. That's like a tongue twister. But I think I don't think she has any problems with that, because I tell you, we had a conversation last night, and she talks like a normal New Yorker, nice and fast. Do this. You may have some times where it's just you, but don't worry, you're still live, and then I will come back. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
Fantastic. So we might have a little bit more time, just to let you know. I have a recording from our second our Market Watch portion of it. So we'll see. I have somebody else on the end as well that's been messaging me. But so there's a lot going on. Yesterday we had this the Bronx rally, right? It's almost this
Yes.
euphoria of what's going on in New York. Of course, that's on the backdrop of the New York trial with Trump, which has been kind of absolutely crazy. And then I get a message from one of our mutual connections about what's going on in New York. Tell me, Shannon, maybe first introduce yourself if you want to introduce yourself more than I just did, and then what is going on in New York?
So my name is Shannon Stevens. I am running in New York's second congressional district. It's pretty much the eastern end of Long Island, from, if you're familiar with Long Island, William Floyd Parkway in Shirley, all the way into Massapequa on the South Shore. So it's actually a pretty large district. Our district lines were just moved halfway into signature collection. So that was another issue that we had going on here. Was the way we access ballots is signature collection. So we have a certain period of time where we have to collect X amount of signatures in order to get on the ballot for a primary. Currently, we are all, I say we, meaning boatload of candidates in New York, are considered disqualified candidates at this point, because our own party has sort of waged war on us. They don't like you challenging, their picks for the seats, particularly if the seat is a Republican incumbent. So right now on Long Island, there are no primaries really for any of the congressional districts. For our federal Senate race, there is not a primary. Essentially, the GOP has decided your candidates for you if you live in New York, more or less, for these federal seats.
So now this is really I wish I was surprised. I wish I was surprised. I'm not. I'm not at all surprised. But this is absolutely crazy. So, and not saying that the candidates that they've chosen are quote unquote rhinos, but the fact that it appears, and I don't know if gerrymandering is the right word. I didn't know of a better word to use, so I used that in the title. But the fact that they are blocking people like yourself from running for office, and it's not just you. So how are they doing that?
Through lawsuits, essentially. So, not to put ourselves on the same level as Donald Trump, obviously, he's facing a lot of other issues in terms of lawfare. But lawfare is the word that comes to mind when I'm looking at all of this, lawfare and election interference, because essentially what they're doing is they're bringing cases into court, and they're trying to sue us off the ballot for, bogus arguments that really don't belong in front of a judge in a courtroom. More or less, it is your right to choose your candidates, your elected officials. That's your 14th Amendment right to vote, right? So we have a problem here in New York where your right to vote is actually being taken away from you and denied, because the GOP here in New York has decided to remove your ability to vote for a candidate in a primary and actually move those candidates into a courtroom proceeding. So you don't have access to it and you don't have a choice. And essentially, they've put an onus on any of the grassroots candidates to try and defend themselves against, teams of attorneys in courts that are sort of run by individuals who are also very friendly with the party as well.
Well, and that's when you said that, it really kind of laid it out for me because it's one thing, and I haven't talked about it a whole lot on the show before, but the lawyers, the judges, and we can doctors and stuff like that, but in this country have been selected over the last 30, 40, 50 years. So we
Yes.
have like a situation here where we have allowed most of us, people are just trying to live, right? I mean, they don't understand what's going on. People are operating at a higher level. They are working in decades, and people are working month to month, day to day, week
Right.
to week. And these people are putting things in line for decades and for hundreds of years. So it's crazy. So here we are in this situation. I mean, what? I mean, is there a recourse? So what do you do?
It becomes a little bit difficult here in the state of New York because, unfortunately, the powers that be have also sort of cleaned off our ballot such that we don't really have third party access. There is an independent line. It's a lot harder to get. You need more signatures, and our signature collection period ends in about 4 days for that. So they've kind of tried to create a situation here where you don't have access out and around the two major parties in New York to access the ballot or even have any opportunity to sort of run as a candidate. I personally believe that this is all by design. I think this is sort of a uniparty system, if you will. I know a lot of people have used the phrase uniparty. I think it's alive and well in New York. For example, I don't necessarily think we are dealing with, Republican versus Democrat here so much as we're dealing with a very, deep-seated institutional machine that has been at work for a very long time. And us candidates coming in, in this round are just starting to figure this out as we've hit the court system and other facets of the institutions here that we're dealing with.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look young. I don't know how old you are, but yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's who would see this kind of coming. So, how does the relationship with the GOP there work? I mean, all right, so now in where I'm familiar with it is kind of Virginia, and you can either pay to get on the ballot or you can get the signatures. Is that the way it is there, or is it just signatures?
No, it's just signatures. So you have to collect a certain percentage of your party or a certain number. Every year, the election, commission will put out for New York a certain number or a percentage of your party voters, whatever is smaller, and that's what you're aiming for. For Republican ballots, it was 1,250 this year. For congressional races. For Senate, I believe it was 15,000. And most of our candidates, our grassroots candidates, actually achieved well and above beyond the required number of signatures. That's kind of the kicker here. So our signatures ended up being invalidated by court proceedings for things like, a judge sitting in a courtroom looking at whether he believes, an 86-year-old woman wrote 94 or 99. And depending on that, the signature is in or out for where she actually lives versus what he thinks she wrote. So to me, that's not a legal determination. And what they've essentially done here is they've kind of subverted the law in New York because the election law speaks to a substantial compliance standard to avoid fraud. The whole point of, creating this standard is to avoid major fraud on any sort of petition gathering ballot. However, the judges here over the years have decided cases in a way that they can now rest on case law that requires strict compliance, 0% human error rate. And they're now resting on those cases to require you to have essentially a 0% rate of error in these petitions. And you're talking 2,000 signatures to 15,000 signatures. It's nearly impossible to make sure, every single date is correct and someone hasn't, misspelled their name or miswrote anything or forgot anything. So it's essentially an impossible feat.
Well, also, you just look at what they're doing. I mean, they didn't hardly, by any appearances anyway, when they're checking the signatures of the ballots that are coming in for the last two elections that we've had. It doesn't appear to be any type of scrutiny. So let me just
Exactly.
break it down for the viewers. So you got the needed signatures, and then and I'll fill in a little bit for people as well. Then you got what was called a citizen
A citizen challenge or
a
objector.
citizen
So in New
challenge or
York,
objection.
you have the ability to, as a quote concerned citizen, object to a candidate's petition. You think there might be fraud or there's something wrong, you want access to that petition to see it. So once you file a petition as a candidate, these citizen objectors have 3 days to file a general letter that says, Board of Elections, I object to this petition. Once they do that, they are now required to file a formal request under the Freedom of Information Law in order to get your petition. And then they have 6 days to go through it and write down specific objections. For example, this person lives out of district, this person is not a registered Republican, things like that, and send them all back to the Board of Elections. The interesting thing about that is uh, people who had helped me collect signatures, who had an active role in the Republican Party, started receiving phone calls within 2 hours of my filing this petition. That is not the timeline for a FOIL request in New York. It takes at least a day, to get that information from the petition. So something went on there where there was, I would call it unauthorized access
Yeah.
by individuals objecting to our petitions ahead of time. So we received, my campaign at least, I had 1,832 signatures, and they objected to 1,832 signatures.
Oh my gosh, they objected to all of so
Every single
so
one.
and then effectively, and it's you and how many other people that you know about in New York?
So I was the only person trying to primary Andrew Garbarino in District 2. I know there were 4 gentlemen in District 3 attempting to primary LaPetri. District 3 had been formerly George Santos's seat before our Long Island congressman decided to, run the charge to expel him from Congress and hand that seat to a Democrat. So there's a lot of deep-seated issues in District 3 as well. As far as I know, there are also 3 candidates for Senate, for our federal Senate seat, which is currently Kristen Gillibrand's seat. There were 3 people who got disqualified there, and I believe 2 upstate. and that's the only people I'm in contact with. So I'm sure there's more than what I'm aware of at the moment.
Unbelievable. So, and yeah. So this is like this is the dirty stuff that goes on. And so how about, I mean, obviously we all know Scott Presser. I know Scott Presser, these types of people at the main GOP or the main RNC. What type of reaction, Laura Trump, what type of reaction are you getting from these people?
The difficulty here is this has been mostly local level information. So we're trying to kind of get it out on a national level. The RNC has a bit of a separation from a state GOP level,
Yeah.
but this had to have come from state level at least because this happened in multiple counties and districts across New York State. So this is definitely a state playbook at the very least coming from our state GOP chair and higher. So we need some national attention on this because I don't think people even locally realize exactly what just went on and the fact that they now don't have a choice. If they are anywhere right of center, their candidate has been chosen for them, and they have one option come the ballot in November currently. There are no primaries in June. They've kind of wiped the floor with the primaries here.
Well, so when I Googled the New York primary, I saw one was canceled. Is that correct? Is that
Yes, they are, quote, canceling them if there are no challengers. And the GOP has kind of patted themselves on the back that they've removed, quote, challengers with ego problems from their ballot. So from where they stand, we have an ego issue, and that's why we're running against their candidates. It actually has more to do with the fact that we are disenfranchised and unhappy with our current status here in New York with our candidates that we have.
Now? Tell me about. I don't know if it was the person you're running against or a different district that has a 0% constitutional rating by one of our friends, and even AOC has a better constitutional rating. Tell us
Yes,
about
that
that.
is
Is that
my district. So District 2 is currently Andrew Garbarino's seat for Congress. Andrew Garbarino has been, challenged multiple times in public for his voting record. The John Birch Society puts out something called the Freedom Index, and what they'll do is they'll take bills from different, aspects of the law, something like education, healthcare, different things like that, and they'll rate essentially congressmen on how much they're following the Constitution when they vote along these lines for each of these bills. Currently, Andrew Garbarino has a worse rating than AOC, which speaks volumes to me because, when you think of like the main liberal in Congress that everyone goes after for the way that they speak, the things that they say, the way they conduct themselves, it's usually AOC in the news. Given that he's actually voting less constitutionally than she is, I don't consider him a Republican at all. So Rhino, in my opinion, is sort of sugarcoating it because he's not really a rhino, he's a liberal. He's sitting on a Republican line and he's voting as far left as you possibly can on anything that he gets his hands on. Anything from, curtailing gun rights to sending foreign aid overseas. He's, funded both sides of multiple proxy wars that we have going on overseas. The border is another issue. And we just see time and again bad votes coming out of Andrew Garbarino's seat. And he cannot, or he will not speak to them, rather, and kind of explain where he's coming from with these votes.
and now no accountability. They've taken you out of the race. Okay, so I know
Yes.
you're fighting this in as much as you can, tooth and nail in court. What does the runway look like? How much time do you have? What can you do? What are you doing? And maybe how can people help?
So right now, none of us are jumping out of the race because none of us disenfranchised candidates are, ready to give up and throw in the towel and kind of concede to what's gone on here. And I don't think our voters and constituents here are looking for that either. In our district, I've talked to thousands of people in District 2. I can tell you that I have not met a single person in our district that likes Andrew Garbarino, that thinks he was doing a good job, and that is willing to vote for him, in the upcoming election. So much to the point where people are willing to sit at home. They're writing things on Facebook about, writing in Mickey Mouse or writing in my name, anything else that they can come up with, as a way of getting around actually voting for Andrew Garbarino. I've had, people contact me saying things like, I will vomit if I have to vote for him again. So that's kind of the level of anger and disenfranchisement and upsetment that we have from voters coming out of New York. So none of us candidates are willing to give up on this process yet. It is going to be a rocky road to November, but we are looking at different options on ballot access in November, and none of us have given up yet. So hang tight.
That is absolutely crazy. Now, what about this guy that was running for the RNC chair? I forget his name there for New York, though. He's kind of a famous guy. So
I
who? I
know
mean,
Lee Zeldin's name was
yeah.
in the running for a bit.
How,
Yes.
how is he able to help?
So we have not actually, my campaign personally has not reached out to Lee Zeldin. I
Okay,
don't know what went on, behind the scenes with his congressional race originally moving from,
that would
first
be
district
interesting to
Congress
know.
into, yes, he had run and he held the first district seat for a while until running for governor. I know there was a lot of issues, with his gubernatorial race, and at the end of the gubernatorial race, we ended up with, Governor Hochul, who, in my opinion, is a be careful what you wish for sort of issue for New Yorkers, because we went from Cuomo to Governor Hochul, and things have gotten much worse here in New York, under her. At least you knew what you had, in my opinion, with, Cuomo, but
The
here,
devil you know. That's what I tell
yes,
everybody all the
exactly.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have not heard overly much from Lee Zeldin since that race. But it would be something to shed light on from, from his perspective, because he did sit in one of these congressional seats. And he does have, dealings with the Republican Party as such.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the beginning of the show, I would like to say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. It's probably going on in a lot of other states as well. We're going to look into it as much as we possibly can. How do people
Yes.
find you? How do people get in hold of you? How do people help out?
So I have social media that unfortunately keeps getting suspended. If you're not in Facebook jail, you're not doing something right, is what I say. If you're a little too close to the truth, you're in trouble. So we do have social media accounts. They are Stevens for Congress. If you look that up, my website is www.stevensforcongress.com. Stevens spelled STEPHENS, spell out for Congress.com. There's more information about me on there. There's more ways you can contact me as well. And if you go on Ballotpedia, they do have a lot of information on, the current disqualified candidates of New York, if you're looking to get in contact with anyone else as well.
Well, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I,
Thank you for
really
having
appreciate it.
me.
Let's keep open contact as well. I would like to follow up. I'm going to talk to a few people, and see, kind of if we can get to more of the bottom of it. And if there's some other people as well that would like to come on the show and talk about it, let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Talk soon.
Bye.
Absolutely crazy. I wish I was surprised. I'm not. And part of the problem is, of course, that once people get in these positions, you become friends, and this and that. So even though if we have different people up there that we know, they're trying to work the game. They're trying to make it happen. Unbelievable, really, guys. Unbelievable. What's going on there in New York? What we had just learned here on the show. I don't know if it's exclusive to the show. It's certainly the first I had heard about it. I think it just happened. We're going to be looking more into that. Let's switch gears here. The markets are very interesting. Of course, as I talked about, gold and silver are up. Stocks, crypto, bit of a retrace here. ETF, the Ethereum ETF is approved. Matt Dixon, the great Matt Dixon, has a lot to say about it. Pretty surprising that the Ethereum ETF is approved. We do have a normal buy the rumor, sell the news event, as we always talk about, and but probably this thing keeps going up. So here's Matt. I have a recording from him. I'll have to tell him how to use his virtual background in his recording. No, it's fine. So this is in his office. I recognize this. This is in his office in Dubai. They have a great office there for eBay. They have a lot going on today. He has to take care of some stuff. Trying to get him out to Austin, but to get out to Austin, he has to take care of some stuff. Here is the great Matt Dixon. Let's see what the markets are doing.
Good morning, Bruce. Good morning, Impact Money community. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you live again today because I'm in the office for meetings, but still lots of go through. So, well, first of all, I just want to do a little bit of a recap on some of the important news. Obviously, the breaking news is that the Ethereum ETF applications have been approved by the SEC. Now, this is a big surprise to me. I didn't think it would happen, the 180-degree turnaround. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast, but the markets were absolutely right and the punters who priced in basically jumped from 11% chance to, I think, 75% chance. And then we actually got the approval last night. So that is amazing. It opens the floodgates even wider for institutional adoption of cryptocurrency, and I think it really does. I think it's a real game changer, and it's basically another nail in the coffin for the anti-crypto crowd. So these approvals basically means, I mean, even, you know, a lot of the crypto is still based on the Ethereum protocol, the ERC20 and so on. So I think this just means that there's going to be a lot wider acceptance. It's not only that, I mean, we got SEC approval for that, but then also I think it was the day before, was it yesterday? We had the United States House of Representatives voted in favor of legislation that will provide more regulatory clarity for the crypto industry. So this was the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, and it clarifies the role of the SEC and the CFTC, but you know, about cryptocurrency, and just clears the way, basically, just gives a lot more clarity. And this is what the cryptocurrency industry needs clarity, and actually to save the industry in the US, because everybody was exiting, you know, all crypto world, and innovation so was beginning to exit the US. So this is actually a big positive for the US and for the industry as a whole. Obviously, it still needs to be passed by the Senate and signed into law, but it's really still a very positive development. So I'm going to, let me see, I'm going to share screen now, I think, and we'll look at what's going on around the world with the currency markets and the crypto markets for the time being. So let me just share and go straight into the charts. So I trust you can see my chart there. I'll get rid of my picture. So we can see the Bitcoin chart, and it's quite interesting. We have seen quite a sharp sell-off, and it's almost, I mean, it's off the back of Ethereum, where we saw basically Ethereum raced up, and the talk was, is it going to reach 4,000 by the end of the week? That seems highly unlikely now. Of course, anything's possible, especially in the world of crypto. But we got a sell-off from 3.8 something on Ethereum, and we followed suit pretty much with Bitcoin. We can see those this is on the daily now. I've had 4 days of red candles now on Bitcoin. And it still potentially can go either way. So I actually exited Bitcoin and exited Ethereum when I was thinking it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news, as is so often the case when you get this kind of news out. So the moment news came out, I was out of the market. Clearly, it could go high. It could go higher. It could still go much higher. It's just the risk reward for me. We need to surpass that previous all-time high there on Bitcoin to open the way higher. And until that happens, and while we're close to that level, I don't see the point of carrying risk when the risk is also potentially to the downside. This could also, of course, be a 3-wave or a triangle downside, then some kind of 3-wave upside, and then a 5 waves to the downside to be a larger flat correction. That is still entirely possible. So there is certainly potential downside. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that for me is there's undue risk. If we're already at high levels, why would you take a big risk on having to break this resistance to go higher? And yet there's no support underneath until you get below these previous levels down here at the 56,000 level. Below those levels, that's where support is for the market. So when you see resistance is closer than support, for me, this just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to keep jumping into longs in this market. But that's not to say it won't go higher. It's just from a trader's perspective, a risk reward perspective, it doesn't really make sense. Now, I'll just run through very quickly a few of the tokens, because I think it might be an idea just to also run through my X feed and just see some of the stories there which tell a story themselves. But we'll look very briefly at gold. Gold is just bouncing up a little bit, but I looked at gold this morning, and potentially we have, from the previous all-time high, which was that was set just before this recent all-time high a few days ago, and we saw a corrective move to the downside, and we knew it's corrected because this move up here overlapped this move down here. So it's highly likely to be a corrective move down, and then corrective higher, and it's corrective because it's in 7 waves higher, which is a corrective number, and then we're looking to push potentially down a bit further down. So short term, I think there's still some more downside for gold potentially. So an A, B, and a C probably taking us a bit further down. And then I think we're going to rally once again to brand new all-time highs above this all-time high of about 2449, somewhere around there was the previous all-time high. So I think that gold is still bullish, very, very short term. There could be a little bit more downside, and this could be a little bit of, I mean, we could see a decline in inflation expectations, but as I say, we've got only about a week now until we get PCE numbers through, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. So that'll be really important to keep an eye on that. So gold, because it's a hedge against inflation, when inflation comes down, gold tends to come down with it. And when inflation is elevated, gold is that hedge against inflation. So people buy gold as that hedge, and it pushes the price of gold higher. So as I say, I do think that this is just a correction down. I think we're going to push higher for gold. But across the board, we're seeing some quite big numbers to the downside on the cryptos. And funnily enough, actually, the memes are not the biggest. Well, they're not much bigger anyway. You know, we're looking here at some of the big tokens. BNB is down just about 1%. You know, ADA, Cardano down just over 1%. ICP down 1.7%. Litecoin is flat. XRP down 1%. Solana is the big faller of the day amongst the major cryptos. That's down 6.25%. And you can see actually we have this support line drawn in here. It's just bounced off support. But again, it could be a corrective down. It could also potentially be a 3. It's really difficult to say, to be honest, but it could just be corrective higher. So we may have a further down to go to complete a correction to the downside. That would probably make sense. It would align with the expectations for Bitcoin, where, as I say, I think that's just going back to Bitcoin very briefly. Potentially, we have more downside to come for Bitcoin. So this tends to be the opposite of what people are thinking. When you get great news out like this Ethereum ETF news, amazing news coming out, you'd think, okay, the market's going to rally. But what happened was the market's rallied in advance. So it's buy the rumor, sell the news. And so now the news is out, this great news is out, we see Ethereum selling off. It doesn't seem to make sense, does it? But this is the way the markets work. They anticipate things, and then when the things actually happen, the money has already been made for most people. Unfortunately, most retail traders trade off the news directly, whereas the professional traders actually do more anticipating the move. And even within sports, it's actually top professional sports people, they don't react to what's happening on the field with the ball or whatever. They actually, top sports people, anticipate the move. And that's why they're successful and why they're the best at what they do. And it's exactly the same with trading. You have to learn to anticipate the move, because if you wait until the move has happened, then react, you're actually too late. You've missed the boat. And that is precisely the way things work. So we're seeing DXY. We saw a bit of a pump up in dollar index there. That is obviously negative crypto, which is why we're seeing a bit of a sell-off today, because when we see stronger dollar, money flows out of risk assets like crypto. It flows into safe things like US treasuries, and so it pumps the US dollar higher. And that's why we're seeing, with this pump in the US dollar, we're seeing a bit of a sell-off in crypto. Oil, we're seeing, again, probably a bit of a slowing in the economy, perhaps, that's driving this down. We just went below that support that's been holding us for the last few days. So looks as though potentially a bit more downside for oil. So we just need to look at growth expectations, because it's a lot of growth. You know, it's growth is one of the main drivers, economic growth I'm talking about, that drives the price of oil, the consumption of oil, and therefore the demand for oil is obviously what affects price. The supply at the moment seems to be, there's plenty of supply. There's no geopolitical issues that are limiting supply. So at the moment, that's why oil is falling a little bit. So it was quite elevated, and we're seeing some downside. At the moment, we're potentially seeing now 5 waves to downside that we can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if that's a 5-wave move to the downside, then potentially that's the beginning of a larger move to the downside. So this is on the daily as well, so it's quite a big time frame. If we scroll out a little bit, so it's this looks kind of corrective higher, a lot of overlap here. As I say, this wave overlap this wave overlap this wave overlap this wave. So when you see all this kind of overlap, It's telling you it's probably a correction higher. Now here we're not seeing overlap to the downside. So wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4 does not overlap wave 1. So it's a 5-wave move, it looks like. So this is telling me that potentially we do have more downside to come on oil. So corrective, higher, impulsive. A 5-wave move is always impulsive. And if we can see 5 clear waves with no overlap, it could be part of a larger correction, which would still mean, even if we get a bit higher and then further, it would still mean we're going to go lower in oil. So this is telling me that there is more downside on oil. It's probably telling me that there is most likely going to be some more economic weakness filtering through. And if that's the case, that's probably good short term for risk assets like crypto. So, again, we may get a bit of a push higher. If we've got 5 waves down, you'd then at least expect 3 waves higher before the next 5 waves down. So that is the way it works. If you see 5 waves, you do expect 3 waves higher. So if we get 3 waves higher in oil, that may mean a little bit more downside short term, potentially on crypto. But if we then move further down with oil, that will be upside for crypto. So they tend to be inversely correlated. So just very quickly through the meme coins, Bonk is actually down 8% today. So it's normally the big riser and the big faller. So big faller today. The biggest of all, well, actually that's the biggest, but the biggest fall of all is the meme stock. GME here. So we can see there the massive downside, continued downside there. So from that level that we had just a few days ago of 64, we're now down at 18. So we're down probably 70% from that high just a few days ago. So that shows you how risky it is to trade these meme stocks or meme coins, because they have nothing solid behind them. These are the true memes, have nothing solid behind them. And this is effectively a dead business, which has just been pumped up by speculators, pumped up and sold off by speculators. So, it's one that I would avoid, but it's just interesting to see as a meme stock. And the meme coins themselves, TON is actually being quite resilient today. It's one of the smallest fallers, 0.7%. So that's actually really good. And it's one of the more robust tokens, I would say, in terms of the use case, in terms of the underlying technology, the positives that are there, the fact it's got the world record for transaction speeds. There's all sorts of positives there. So I like Toncoin longer term. I think it's really good, although they do have a massive supply. So that is probably the limiting factor on the price of Ton. So that's briefly through the markets. Obviously, we can go on through all sorts of different tokens, but I think it might be just useful just to have a flip through some of these stories. And I'll just go back a little while. I mean, we had, this was quite interesting to see. I'll just flip on this one. This is looking at Bitcoin Pizza Day. You may remember that 14 years ago, a Florida programmer, he bought 2 Papa John pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins, which are now worth around $700 million. That's just 2 pizzas he bought with 10,000 Bitcoins for $700 million they're worth now. So they were probably the most expensive pizzas ever bought in today's value anyway. So it's quite interesting to see from 2011, the Bitcoin prices. So Bitcoin price in 2011 was just $6 per Bitcoin. And then 2012, $5.10. And we can see the price generally appreciating, $123 in 2013, $500 in 2014. Then we had a bit of a fallback, 50% fallback to $241 in 2015. Then the rise started again, 400, 2,000, 8,000, and a bit of a fall. 2018 to 2019, it fell to 7,900. So relatively flat. Then 2020, 9,000. Then we got another explosion higher, 2021. After the COVID fall in 2020, we got a massive rise in 2021 to 37,000. Then we got we got a big rise. Then we got the FTX sell-off, back down again. But then this year, of course, with the ETF approval, the token Bitcoin has just rallied massively. So now we're back below 70,000 again. But just looking at Pizza Day, the price on Pizza Day, it was 70,098. So this is really amazing to see the progression there of Bitcoin prices. So Let me just go back a little bit and see what other stories we have. This was the Poly Markets, which is basically is a kind of betting app where people bet on the outcomes of all sorts of things, presidential things, and so on. So they were saying, will Ethereum hit 4K by Friday? There's a 43% chance. As I say, with the buy the rumor, sell the news, that now looks highly unlikely. But as I say, you never quite know with Bitcoin. So let's see here. So this was the what I mentioned about the FIT bill, 2021, the FIT bill about regulatory clarity for cryptocurrency. That's potentially a big positive. This was the BTC prices. This was actually, I think, posted yesterday, I think. And it showed that I was expecting downside, so a bit of a push upside, which is precisely what we got, and then more downside in the C wave, which again is precisely what we got. I think we've probably dipped slightly below that level, but that's very much in tune with what we expected, what we showed on yesterday's show. So that was a positive. I think probably best if we nip back even a bit further. So it's quite good to see China boosted their gold holdings. So again, we're always talking about gold on this show. So I think long term, gold is looking really positive. It's interesting that China boosted their gold holdings and continued to do so. This is a chart from 2015 right through to today and shows how they've been continually boosting their gold holdings. China are actually very, very smart in what they do. I think they recognize that potentially there's risks around the corner, shall we say. And as such, they've been building their massive holdings of gold as a buffer to any potential economic problems that filter through in the world. Well, geopolitical, economical, whatever they might be. China's been boosting their gold holdings, and so have a lot of governments. I think Russia has also been boosting their gold holdings. The only one that didn't in recent years, the biggest story was actually the UK that sold off their gold at the worst possible price, and that just is an indication of why people are losing confidence in government, because they tend to make wrong decisions at wrong times that affect. Because when they say, "Oh, it's the government pays the price," it's not true. At the end of the day, the taxpayer is the one that foots the bill. And so when the government makes bad decisions, it's the taxpayers that end up paying, unfortunately. I won't go into too many other stories. I know Bruce has got an awful lot lined up with the show, and especially with this consensus coming up very soon. So I know we have a lot to talk about. But I still expect most of the tokens, and I think we'll probably just flip back very briefly tokens. I still think this is probably a temporary sell-off. It's a relatively sharp sell-off today, and we're seeing GameStop go lower and lower. But I think hopefully we're going to see a rebound fairly soon. I think this, again, I actually showed this yesterday. This was Ethereum. The expectation was, again, precisely in line. I haven't changed this chart. This was actually what we showed for Ethereum potentially. We got a wave 4 down, corrective, and we were saying over and over again on these shows that we're expecting higher from there, and it's precisely what we got. We got the wave 1 up, 2 down. This was before we knew about potential ETF approval, before the odds jumped from 11% to 75%. The charts were telling us that something was in the works that was going to push the Ethereum price higher, because we were saying this was a corrective move down with all the overlapping waves, where this wave overlaps this wave, etc. We've been through that. So this is a corrective move down, so we're expecting impulses to the upside. We got it, and we actually got some divergence. You can look on different time frames, but there is some divergence in play there, mild divergence in play. So anyway, we expected prices to move higher impulsively, and they did. We got a wave 1 up, wave 2 down, corrective with all the overlap there again, then wave 3 higher. Wave 3 is normally the impulsive wave, the one that's extended, and you can see the extension of the wave, rapid extension of the wave there, typical of wave 3. So within the blue wave 3 here, it's made up of 5 smaller waves, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whether it's complete here or here, hard to say, but a wave 4 down and a further 5th wave in red to the upside, which will complete wave 3. So I do think that we're going to get some more movement up, and then we'll get a further wave 4 down, another correction down before then we push off once again. And I think this could potentially then take us, because we're talking wave 3, wave 4 on a much bigger scale. We could see potentially challenging the all-time highs for Ethereum. So looking at the overall news, the fundamentals are actually really now quite strong from the crypto perspective. As I say, we talked about that legislation that's coming through, the fact that we've got the ETF approvals. The economy is still on a relatively stable footing, softening a little bit. So they'll be looking at lowering interest rates a bit, which means more money into risk assets like crypto. So I think the backdrop is really good. The fundamentals are good. The only real risk factor out there is a rapid fall off in the economy potentially. We don't see signs of that quite yet. And the other big risk, of course, is geopolitical. So without those risks manifesting, we probably have a lot more upside to come. So I think we're still in the reasonable stages, should I say, of a bull run. So I think potentially much higher to go. And I'm looking just for pullbacks, basically to add to dollar cost average when we see pullbacks in the market. When we see a pullback, again, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, just dollar cost average across a range of assets. Don't commit all of your capital in one go, ever. And in that way, you should be able to accumulate without having any particular trading skills. Just basically look for pullbacks and accumulate gradually, not committing too much. And overall, long term, with the backdrop we have now of all this positive news coming out, especially with the legislation, with the general acceptance and institutional adoption, and this is going to make it possible for institutions now to get exposure. So when an institution trades basically financial assets, they want diversification. That is the key to safety and security and managing risk, is diversification. So they'll diversify across as many assets as possible. Now, within the crypto portion, and it may only be 1 to 5% of the overall portfolio be held in crypto, but if if you could only invest in Bitcoin as the only regulated asset, then you haven't really got the diversification you want. But now you have Bitcoin and Ethereum potentially, so you're beginning to get diversification. So not only within asset classes, talking about equity, bonds, crypto, whatever it might be, gold, but even within the individual classes. So within crypto itself, you also want diversification there. So what this legislation is doing and what these ETF approvals are doing is actually now making it palatable and possible for institutions to invest more of their capital into cryptocurrency, because they're able to diversify and manage risk across a range of assets. That's what we've been waiting for. And that's why we say the institutional floodgates are just beginning to open. And this is why it's probably time, as Bruce was saying, it feels like a hollow rally. I think he said the other day, it's actually starting to feel a bit more real. And I think, yes, now we're getting this supportive legislation, it is starting to feel a bit more real. And so these pullbacks, as I say, may just be the right opportunity to start dipping your toe in, bit of dollar cost averaging. So hope that helps. Have an amazing weekend and look forward to catching up Monday and hearing the latest news on consensus. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Bruce, and bye for now.
The great Matt Dixon. I'll tell you what, Matt and I, we worked together now for years, off and on, and we made some money together. And that Evade platform is absolutely amazing. That is a great platform. I can tell you, I made a lot of money with that platform. We're collaborating in a number of ways here, but doing this show with Matt Dixon every morning has really been something else, and really appreciate you, brother. It's been absolutely great, and there's a lot more to come. I'll tell you what, what is going on in the world right now, and what you see happening with finance, okay, and with politics, and with this transfer of wealth that I'm sure that you can see happening, is so important for you. I don't want you to. It's actually really important that you don't miss this. Okay, your wealth, your family's wealth, has been largely taken away by a lot of different politicians and whatnot over the years. I mean, basically the central bank, but politicians have enabled it, starting, back in 1913 when they put the Federal Reserve in. But remember, in 1933, they confiscated everybody's gold. They took all of your family's gold. It was like it was a big fine too. It was in modern day time money. It was about $1 million fine if you didn't turn in your gold. So they made everybody turn in their gold. They gave them paper dollars. They paid them $25 or $35 per ounce. An ounce of gold right now is about $2,500. So they confiscated all the gold by executive order in 1933, and then they made it illegal for Americans to own gold in 1934. Okay, so your wealth, you had to be, and even if then you have like your real estate or whatever, but they tax the heck out of that every year, right? Every year you get taxed the mess out of your real estate. So we're in a position now where 100 years later, 111 years later, you're a lot worse off than you were. And the monetary revolution, I've been talking about the monetary revolution around the world for a decade now. Okay, the monetary revolution is the way that we can fight back peacefully, take power back from these people. As long as you're holding, just think of every $100 bill that you hold, every $100 bill, it comes with about a 3% interest, okay, that you have to pay the central bank for that paper, okay, it's not even gold. And then they call it a debt instrument, but it's really a tax instrument. It's a tax instrument because they can tax you however much they want, whenever they want to, by diluting the money supply. So if they want $100 billion to send overseas, they just print more money, and that dilutes your money. And that's why in 1934, $35 could buy you an ounce of gold, but now you need $2,400, I think it is today, to buy an ounce of gold. What is happening right now with gold and silver and crypto, it's not just one or the other, one that's mutually exclusive, although crypto may go up a lot more, but silver has gone up, 25-30% since we started doing the show. And as well, gold has gone up considerably. You can participate, and I don't want you to get left behind. So a couple of things I want to go over here just in the end of the show. If you go to atcostmetals.com, you go to atcostmetals.com and you use referral code clubs, you can sign up. It's a members club, so you pay for the membership, and you can buy gold and silver at cost. Not financial advice and all that good stuff, okay? But you can join there, and you can buy every month that you want to. You can buy gold, silver, palladium, platinum, as you want, okay? As you want. You can do that at costmetals.com. Use referral links clubs, okay? Now, as far as with crypto, what is going on in Austin, guys, next week is the biggest thing. This might be like the biggest event in my career. Consensus 2024. We have legislation that has just passed the House that is pushing crypto. And it should be, because I can tell you this. Consensus, we would have all made a lot more money off of Consensus if there was more clarity, because I can tell you a lot of my partners and colleagues from overseas were scared to come here, even with the vast wealth of America. They were scared to come here because there's no clarity and people are going to jail and all this stuff. So the fact now that the legislation is happening, the fact now that Trump is getting behind, he's saying that he's pro-crypto. The fact now that I have people kind of reaching out to me, okay, because we have, it's crypto. We need jobs, right? We need jobs. Well, how can we make jobs? We can make jobs in technology. We can do that with crypto, right? We can do it with crypto. Don't be scared of crypto. Don't be scared of crypto, guys. And there's a couple of different things. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. All right, you can take it. It's impossible to seize, freeze, and all this stuff. Okay, there's a lot of great things about it. There's some other ones like that too. Global Boost is one that I had a hand in starting 10 years ago. Digibyte, Litecoin, these ones, okay? But these other assets as well, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin would be another one like the initial ones I said. But XRP, these things, guys, there's a major transfer of wealth that's coming on. If you can make it to Austin, come to Austin next week, May 29 through 31st, coindesk.com. Use referral code Bruce. Okay, you may have to go to my X account because yesterday I was trying to do it and I had to follow the link. The link is under, right? Or above, right? No, it's under the tweet that my main post. I have the link there. It's also on Crypto Cake YouTube, also on my LinkedIn. Follow that link. It'll auto fill it for you. Even the Piranha Pass is 15% off. I think that is exclusive to us. It's about almost a $1,500 savings on that pass. Okay. Get yourself a ticket to Consensus. Come and see us at Consensus. We're going to be broadcasting live there. We're going to be bringing the news that matters to you. Crypto and Bitcoin are here to stay. You look at what's happened with the NASDAQ and how that has gone up and up and up since its inception. And you make your own, do your own research. Okay. Do your own research, not financial advice. But guys, it's life-changing. It can be life-changing. Okay. So Consensus 2024, you can Google it. You're going to want to follow my link and you will get a 15% discount there on the tickets. They're not cheap, but they are worth it. As well, if you are coming to Austin, make sure that you join our gala, the Washington Elite Gala, our famous gala that we've done around the world in amazing places like Versace Mansion, like the Harvard Club, like the Palaces in Vienna. We're doing it at the JW Marriott. Get your ticket there. Nothing is cheap in Austin, okay? But it does go for a good cause. The proceeds go for a good cause. And I have a lot of very important people that are coming there, okay? There's going to be a lot of money in the room. There's also going to be a lot of important people, a lot of wonderful people that are there. And of course, I'll be there as well. And we'll do our thing. We'll give out some stuff there. So super excited about that. That's on May 30th. Okay. So make sure if you want to come that you come. If you want to guarantee yourself a seat, get a ticket. If you register, of course, we're going to go through. We're able to approve some people. We're not able to approve many people. Okay. Especially at this point. But if you want to come, we definitely have a seat for you. If you get yourself a VIP ticket, you can get yourself a single VIP ticket, or you can get yourself a table. And if you do it quickly, like today is really the cutoff. I even took it off the Luma page. But if you get it done today, I can include your logo in some of the stuff. So always a pleasure, guys. I am having a great time. I know we all are having a great time. Love you all. We're going to bring you more stuff on the situation in New York. I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to call some of my friends as well. We're going to find out what's going on in New York and if that's something that's going on around the country as well. See you guys in a few hours.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape